Hi everyone, Diana Rankin here. How are you today? You might see Piper. She's hiding over here on the floor instead of her bed. She was a- available for the picture, but she's now hiding over here, and I don't think you can see her. She's down there under my desk. Anyway, welcome everyone. So good to see you. We are going to get a message from Phillip, one of my spirit guides. By the way, I'm Diana Rankin, and I apologize. I am running a little bit late today. Anyway, this is one of my books, and in this book, it's just an oracle book that has the different wisdoms in it, and we absolutely will get our message from this book. Of course, I wasn't quite ready. The time just got away from me, and I apologize for that. So we are looking today at some really deep questions. And they're not questions that I would have answers to because they're kind of, I guess we'd call them scientific questions. But Philip has um, a different answer than maybe a scientific answer. Hello there, Johanna or Johanna. It's said both ways, Johanna or Johanna. And I have friends that say it both ways. So forgive me if I'm not saying it correctly for you. But anyway, we're going to get started here. I've got to catch my breath, and I apologize for running late here. Okay, the questions, as I say, are really quite dense, but I just want to take time here to say hello, Lexi. She says, hi, Diana. Wendy's here too. Johanna says, hi, Diana. Wendy says, I made it. Hello, everyone. And Lexi Luna says, hi, Diana, Philip, and all watching. I pray everyone is having a fabulous Friday full of love and miracles, sending love and positive vibes to all. Thank you. Thank you. So glad you're all here with us. So here we go. And again, this is pretty complicated here. So it says the writer, the questioner sent it by email. If you have questions, you can put them in the comments below. You can email me. My address is, I think it's right below here, but if not, it's on my webpage, and that's right below here. And I just copied this from the writer, so and it gets a little detailed. So I'm going to read the questions before I get into the answers. I need to breathe, don't I? But I thank you for your questions. I do ask that you keep them of a general nature, questions that would be of interest to our entire audience, not just a couple of people, or not just you. For your personal questions, please call me and we'll set up a session for you. All right, here we go. Hope all is so far. Okay, here are the questions. Due to time being something only experienced in the third density, and light speed being a limited factor to our current reality, how is light perceived in the fourth density? So, due to time being something only experienced in the third density, and then my understanding in parentheses, and light speed being a limited time factor to our current reality, how is light perceived in the fourth density? Are there things relative to one another? And does space exist to a fourth density being? Philip will address all of that. And it goes on. More questions here. Is there a better way to represent the periodic table to understand its full utility? Do these elements play a role in the spirit world? Do atoms exist in the spirit world? And I got to say, interesting questions and interesting answers. And Johanna says, this is Thanksgiving week in Canada. And she says, and then she splits Thanksgiving and it's Thanksgiving. Beautiful. I love that. I always say, very similar to the saying, I say, it's when it happens in the US, I say, it's a time to give thanks for giving. So thank you. Yes, I agree. Thank you, Johanna. Okay, here's what Phillip says to all of these questions. And I will tell you, if you don't remember the questions like I wouldn't, as we go through, it'll become clear. Phillip says, let us begin by defining the terms. Then we shall answer in a way that we trust will help all who listen to understand the answers to the questions. We say answers because with an S, because there are many questions, but they do overlap. I'm going to grab a marker here to help me out. We also must admit we may not have full knowledge of the questioner's thinking, so our answers may be more general than wished for. This said, we begin now with defining terms as they are accepted in your language. Dimensions refers to spatial properties, length, depth, and volume. Density refers to the mass, what and how much is in a unit of something. So dimension refers to length, depth, volume. Density refers to the mass, how much of whatever is in that unit. Humans live in a third dimensional world. There is length, depth, and height. The human density perceived depends on the mass. For example, a table is denser than air. In one of my workshops, I would go through the 11 different dimensions. And I remember talking about, like, the first dimension is just like a dot. There's no length, there's no depth, there's no in or out. The second is like a photograph. There's no depth, there's length, and there's length and there's width, but there's no depth. In the third dimension, we have depth. And dimension and density are different. Keeping this in mind as we proceed, we shall answer many questions by defining the fourth dimension, density in the fourth dimension, and also spirit world, as well as other higher dimensions. So the questioner asked basically about the fourth dimension. Phillip says, we're going to talk to you about other dimensions as well in the spirit world, which the questioner did ask about. Phillip goes on to say, the fourth dimension adds time to the length, depth, and height of the third dimension. This dimension allows you to see forward and backward, while the third dimension allows that only in the memory or imagination. The way I would explain this in my workshop is in the fourth dimension, we can see back to our birth. We can even witness our birth. And we can see forward. So time is, we recognize that everything that's happening in time is happening right now. And then if I'm remembering correctly, in the fifth dimension, we can see all our entire soul line, our all lives that we've experienced and lives that we will probably experience in the future if we so choose. And that moves into other higher dimensions. But if I'm recalling correctly, that's how I define the different dimensions. Because this was a spiritual type workshop, so we were looking at our lives. But for general purposes, that probably isn't an answer. But the fourth dimension adds time to the length. Our time in the third dimension is what's happening now. Well, Phillip explains this. The fourth dimension is less dense than the third. Your scientists have discovered 10, or some say 11 dimensions, each becoming less dense. There is no density in spirit world, thus there's no need for dimension. I'm going to assume that third and fourth dimension is clear, but just to reiterate very quickly, in the third dimension, we have length, depth, we have height. In the fourth dimension, we add time, which in the third dimension, we're seeing right now what's happening. We can use our imagination to look forward. We can use our memory to look back, but we're really only witnessing right now. Whereas in the fourth dimension, we're witnessing a lot more. Phillip goes on to say, spirit world is created by the mind as is your third dimensional world. The difference is creation is instantaneous in spirit world. The idea of density can be created, as one who has recently passed into spirit world often chooses to do. That which was known or desired is often created to give comfort. In spirit world, as in your third dimensional world, all is energy. The form of the energy depends on the mind formation expressed as thoughts. The form of the energy depends on the mind's formation expressed as thoughts. I found that sentence interesting. Light, as you know it, expresses itself because of its density. In heightened dimension, that density does not have the same density, so the light is less harsh. The questions are I want to stop before we get to the next question. I always see when I'm reading for a client and we're talking about a loved one, four-legged or two-legged in spirit world, that person often shows me what they look like in human world. So they're creating a density. But in reality, our minds are creating that. In reality, it's there's no density. There's the light. Everything in spirit world is very subtle. And so in our world, we often question, is this really coming from spirit world? Because it's so subtle. Is this really my spirit guide talking to me? Because it is very subtle. Because we don't have that density. So the light would not be harsh, as our light in our world can often be harsh. All right. The question, and that's what Phillip is saying. The same densities, it's not the same density, so the light is less harsh. The questions are things still relative to one another. And does space exist to the fourth dimension beings we shall address now? Many humans live or move in and out of the fourth dimension. Remember our earlier definition of the fourth dimension. The answer to both questions is yes. Many of us are moving in and out of that fourth dimension, as well as other dimensions. But again, the question was about the fourth. The question we will answer about the periodic table is this. It is the best answer for humans, or perhaps we should say most humans at this time. I love this next sentence. There is a young person, and I could not discern, was it a boy or girl? There was no discerning that, which I also found that very interesting, but that's a whole nother topic. There is a young person who will upgrade the table, the periodic table, in the coming years when the human mind is better able to comprehend. We will answer the last two questions by saying all is energy. Density is formed by the mind. Spirit world is the ultimate universal mind. There is no need for elements or atoms. There is only mind. If the mind is love with capital L, then that is the creation in all dimensions. The density of what is created depends on what the mind creates in thought. And then Phillip goes on to say, ask yourself, how do I experience love? Is there density to that? In the human world, the answer might often be yes. In the world of energy of the mind, the answer would be, and then Phillip just left it there. And you can feel the emotion that I'm feeling. And that's exactly what happened. Phillip said, how do you experience love? Is there density to that? In the human world, the answer might often be yes. In the world of the energy of the mind with a capital M, the answer would be, and I had the same reaction. My reaction right now is not as strong as it was when I was directly dealing with Phillip. I felt overwhelmed with this emotion of what I call love. Tears came. My heart just exploded. There are no words for that. Is there density to that? I don't know, because I wasn't aware of my body at the time. So I don't know. It didn't last. I felt a smile. What I wrote is, I felt a smile and my heart opened and tears fell. When Phillip said, in the world of the energy of the mind with a capital M, the answer is, how do you feel love? And that answer would be, all right. Lexi Luna says, happy Thanksgiving with a capital T and a capital G, Johanna or Johanna. Well, my friends, whew, I got to tell you, I love your questions. It forces me to look at things that perhaps I never questioned, but it also gives me that deep opportunity to feel something like I experienced on a really deep level earlier when I was writing this, but on a emotional, a lesser level, but you could still see the emotion coming of what is love? How do we experience it? Let's get a message, shall we? We're just going to open and we're going to flip to any page that where our thumb stops or our finger stops, or just open the book without flipping through it. If you heard right, then we're in sync. If you heard left, that's a message that you need to pay attention to. So if we're on the right side, if you heard right, then that's a message for all of us. If you heard both, then you need to pay attention to both messages. I do get questions, what if I heard both? All right, here's what Phillip says about the right. That which you want to hear may not be that which you need to hear. That which you want to hear may not be that which you need to hear. Maybe so for example, if you needed to hear in the human expression, there's density to love, because maybe we think of an expression like someone touching us with love. And that is an expression of love. And let's be happy we're human, having this wonderful human experience, as difficult and as tough as it can be at times. It's still pretty wonderful. And I like the density of feeling someone touch me in love. I like both. All right, if you heard right, that which you want to hear may not be that which you need to hear. If you heard left, is it not that war is a substitute for peace, fear a substitute for love, darkness a substitute for light? Well, my friends, if we think about that, is it not that war is a substitute for peace, fear a substitute for love, darkness a substitute for light? Then perhaps just remembering that it's pretty simple, difficult perhaps to put in place, but it's a pretty simple concept. Everything has its opposite. So if we are afraid or fearful or angry or upset about something, what's the opposite? That's what we want to experience, because the opposite is love. I love you, my friends. I am so grateful for those of you who were able to make it in person, sort of make it live, and be here holding the energy for me. I'm so grateful for that. For those of you who comment, thank you for being there. For those of you who are unable to make it live, because I know 1:00 Eastern time on a Friday is not available for everybody, thank you for supporting this channel. Thank you for listening to us, for telling your friends, for the thumbs up, and most of all, my friends, thank you for the love you send us and the love you receive from us. We love you. See you next week, if not before. And don't forget, those moments of joy, keep experiencing them. They're there.